Hello malt mates, welcome to review 1084 extras, extra content, extra opinion, extra perspective from myself, Ralphie, here in the Whiskey Bothy, somewhere in some remote little island full of nostalgia, history and witches and wizards and druids and all that juicy stuff, and Vikings, loads of Vikings. That's where we're at. The perfect place actually for a whiskey bothy and rum, because latter day Vikings, and because they were such seafarers, the Vikings, they made good sailors when sail ships came along, and they did incline to become pirates, because pirating, if done right, could be enormously profitable and get very competent but impoverished people out of the cesspit of Europe, which was embroiled in constant internal aristocratic warfare, and get them off to sunnier climes with more rewarding riches to be found and plundered. A complex business, by the way. I'll tell you what else is a complex business. Deciding what's good whiskey. You see, there's two sides to this, and I'm going to explain it to you in some detail. There's the messaging that the whiskey industry gives us to try and sell us the notion and the concept and the belief system of what good whiskey is. This is very transparently obvious in the fact that you have older age-stated whiskies in fancier packaging at very high prices, with the subliminal suggestion being put out there all the time by the whiskey producers that older is better and that you're going to get more for your money. And therefore they're charging more money because you're getting so much more than you would with the younger whiskies. Now, I'm here to tell you that that is simply not true. You will find, as you carry on with your personal malt mission, and perhaps you buy a few older bottles at auction, some of yesteryear's bottles, and you have great anticipation that it's going to be fantastic, and when you open it, your smile turns to a frown and is replaced with a puzzle. Why is this fine old expensive, rare and exclusive whiskey not tasting very good? Why has it been bottled at 43% if it's so special? And why has it been heavily chill filtered? And why have they put artificial caramel colourant into the whiskey to make it look nicer? Well, simply they are tarting up the product to help shift the illusion from them onto you that the whiskey is in fact better when it is not. This is a challenge to us, because unless we established very early on in our malt journey what is the best and what is the rest, and what is the stuff that we shouldn't be touching with a barge pole, no matter how much it's discounted in the supermarket. We soon establish that there is, particularly with whisky clubs, particularly going to whisky festivals, and particularly visiting distilleries to get the feel of it all. This is when we really learn through trial and error, and yes, we all experience the error part of it. I have plenty of times. I've bought duff bottlings which I regret buying. So have you. It's all part of the journey. But there's nothing prepares us for a good whiskey better than the bad experience of a bad whiskey, particularly when it was overpriced, because naturally we don't want to make the same mistake twice. And therefore this brings us to whiskey forensics. Now, I'm giving you malt marks. I've just given a malt mark to this, an independent bottling from Decadent Drams of Ardmore 15-year-old at a high strength 53%, with a little bit of transparency detail, although not enough on the label, but I know what they mean, know where they're coming from, and I am so glad I bought this bottle. It was worth the money. £95 is a lot of money, because you're paying taxes to earn the money and paying taxes to spend the money. And then in between, there's taxes everywhere else. Just to have a vehicle, just to live in a house. Taxes, 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 taxes. All piling up like a massive Jenga pyramid, except it never falls down. We just keep paying the taxes. And therefore we have to be very targeted on how we spend our money to ensure that we're getting the quality. Now, this is an important bit. It's not other people's definition of the quality. It's ours. And we are responsibility as the person paying the money to buy the product to be clear in our own mind based on experience. What are we actually looking for? Are we looking for soft whiskies? Are we looking for dramatic whiskies? Are we looking for heavily peated whiskies or heavily sherried whiskies? They're all out there. Good versions and bad versions of each and every one of them. But what we've got to do is the detailed forensics to know where our palate is at, how developed it is, what is our personal preference, what are we actually really looking for. And then we start to search out the bottlings that are going to deliver it most honestly and most authentically at a relatively affordable price. This means, maltmates, we're not looking for cheap whiskey, because distilleries producing cheap whiskey all the time have got to dumb it down to cover their costs, because running a business in Britain in 2025 is an extremely expensive thing to do. In fact, you'll make more money as a registered charity, one of 166,000 registered charities and NGOs, non-government organisations, which don't pay tax, in Britain. It is now a better business plan to launch a charity and avoid paying tax rather than to launch a commercial business and attempt to make profit. But the distilleries need to make profit. They need to cover the costs, all the bureaucratic red tape, all the absurd regulations and additional payments of even just in hiring staff. People capable and competent of working in within the business, genuinely unsupervised. It's horrendous for the distilleries. Absolutely horrendous. You see, this product, it's not vodka. It's got to sit for a minimum of 3 years. And during that time, the insurance of the casks, the cost of maintaining the roof of the warehouse, the cost of the insurance, the repairs, the hiring of staff who can operate forklift trucks, who actually can look at a barrel and know if it is sound or if it is damaged. This, you cannot learn this at university. You cannot do a degree in this. This is practical, on-the-job, time-served, old-school apprenticeship learning, because it is so specific. Good staff are worth their weight in gold. Bad staff will ruin your business. And the distilleries have got to factor all this in, on top of which there's the cost of bottles and labels and corks and losses. The losses partly from evaporation, but often, if they've got poor quality cask investment, from the leaking of the casks. And that's not unusual. It really isn't. Ask at the distillery when you next visit one, that they'll go up and they'll bang in a cask with their hammer, and they did it 2 years ago and it was full, and 2 years later it's absolutely empty. Everything's disappeared from inside the cask. Why? Because there was a wee damp spot, but they left it alone, just a wee damp spot in the middle there, just in one of the seams of the staves at the barrel head, or in the staves itself. And they said, it's okay, it's not dripping, it's just leaking a little bit. We'll rub some beeswax into it. We'll jam a little bit of oak wood splicing into it to split the wood up a bit. But still, the wicking carries on. So it's not actually dripping, it's just wicking. And at this point, wick, right, just like a candle wick, It just siphons out the content of the cask, and away it goes, unrecoverable. So the costs in a whisky business are higher than ever in history. And let's not even start to address energy costs for the distilleries, who use a lot of energy for constant heating and cooling and lighting and just maintenance of stock. It's virtually the highest in the whole of Europe. It's absurd. So this is what the distillery industry has to stomach. And it's a very loaded dice against them because of the establishment, the way things are in Britain. So when we look at the price, we've got to be aware not how cheap it is, how much it's been discounted, because there's many whiskies out there, malt mates, that are heavily discounted that are just not worth buying, because they were never worth buying at any price. And we've got to have the knowledge. This is one reason why you're tuning in and watching my channel and all the other excellent online whisky reviewing channels, which are providing you more direct and valuable information than you will ever get from legacy media, from books and from magazines. Because online is contemporary. It's right at the moment. It's right at the thick of it. And I'm delighted to be contributing to that. Here's my takeaway. One of your malt missions, your primary malt missions, is to know your palate. Sure, you develop it, but you'll establish through pure experience of trial and error, of persistent quality over quantity, you'll establish what you like. And what you've got to do is stick to what you like and what works for you. And this is why a whisky show, a whisky club are absolutely priceless in helping to develop this situation which you need to be in, because I've been in that situation and it has worked wonderfully well for me. Many years I was in Glasgow's Whisky Club in Glasgow when it founded back in 2002, shortly thereafter, because I wasn't in right at the beginning, but I joined shortly after it started, and I learned so much from other people sitting around me at the table, challenging me on my palate as I challenged them on theirs. All amicable, all good company, all on the same song sheet, focusing quality, not quantity, and enjoying the experience as well as the malts. This is what I'm going to conclude with now. It's not just the whisky. It's the whole whisky sphere. The people we meet, the occasions that we have, the visit to a distillery, knowing what we know even before we arrive and having very carefully decided which distillery is going to give us the experience that we want to invest in. It's the knowledge. And that knowledge can never, ever be taken away from us, because it is ours. We've earned it. We've spent the money. We got the whisky. But above all, we're making the journey. And whisky becomes part of that journey. See you soon.